Welcome to Theories of the Third Kind. My name is Aaron. The other host joining us today is Danielson.
Hello.
Now, before we start today's episode, we have a couple of announcements to make.
If you would like to support the show, you can do so by joining our premium subscription service, Supercast. For just $6.69 a month, you can get weekly premium audio episodes and access to our entire back catalog of over 300 plus episodes that are all ad-free.
Or for $9.99, you can get all that plus premium video episodes and access to our bonus video content. So you can sign up to that by going to our website, theoriesofthethirdkind.com, clicking on the Supercast button right there. Or if you're listening on Spotify, you can just click the link below in the show description notes. Or if you're watching on YouTube, just click on the pinned comment if you want to.
If you can't afford a premium membership right now, no worries. You can still help us out by leaving us a written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
That helps us out a lot.
However, if you don't want to, then that's just fine. We just want you guys, girls, aliens, reptilians, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, chupacabras, ghosts, Illuminati members, underground lizard people, whoever, whatever you are, to enjoy the show. Also, just a reminder, this episode and podcast is entirely human-made. No AI was used or harmed in the process other than for the base graphic, and then we throw it in Photoshop, and then it's human-made more.
Yes, so that right there is the end of the announcements. All right, so today's episode is a Theories Thursday. And if you are unfamiliar with what a Theories Thursday is, it is where Dan and I have each selected a topic. We have not told each other what it is. We have independently researched it. And now we are going to take turns presenting that topic to each other and to you as well. And to determine who goes first, we go to the Dice of Destiny, which is right here. And Dan was looking for it this entire time. It's right here. And Dan, odds or evens?
Odds.
All right, here you go with the roll. 6 evens. I go first. Dan takes it up the rear. That's where all the letters go. Anyway, all right. So for my Theories Thursday topic this week, I'm going to talk about something strange. I decided to dive into a deep rabbit hole and look up mysteries, corruption, and disasters, like a mixture of all that. And I came across probably one of the most craziest stories I've ever read. And I was like, wow, this is a perfect Theories Thursday topic. And it is called Minamata. Don't look it up. Minamata.
Mazda Miata? Is
Close. Minamata.
that some Asian descent?
Yes, it is. All right. So for my Theories Thursday topic this week, we are going to travel to the country of Japan. Now, if you look at the map of Japan, and you go to the very bottom of it, there along its western coast is a small coastal town called Minamata. And here is a map of it right here. And that is where it's located. And I'll add it to this right here so you can take a look at it too, Dan. Of course, as you can see in the photo, there at the bottom is Minamata. And there's Japan. All right. So this town of Minamata has 3 mountains surrounding it. And it has a bay in the middle of it called Minamata Bay, which leads out to the Yatsashiro Sea. And here's another photograph for you to take a look at, which you can see Minamata, and then you can see the sea. Okay. And this plays a big role in my topic today. So let's travel back to the 1950s. The town of Minamata had a population of over 50,000 people. The bay itself was thriving. It had a natural fish reef that was a spawning site for many different aquatic species. So needless to say, the water there was rich and full of life. It had fish, shellfish, seaweed, everything you could imagine. People swimming in it butt fucking naked.
Peeing in it.
What?
Peeing in it.
Peeing in it? Well, probably. But the people in Minamata, they lived off of that water. Families would go out early in the morning, cast their nets into the ocean, bring in their catch, and that food would end up on their dinner tables that same night. And it wasn't just the people. The animals lived off of those fish as well. Now, an important part of this story is cats. Okay?
Cats.
Yeah. The city of Minamata had a problem with rats. And in the 1930s, all the way until the mid 1950s, a lot of people in that town started to get cats as their pets. Now, By 1954, there were hundreds of cats in that city. Over 120 households had cats in it, and hundreds of more cats roamed the streets just as, homeless cats. But it was important because it didn't bother the locals there. They understood that these cats kept the rats away. Otherwise, their town would be flooded with rats. So they lived amongst the cats, and the cats kinda, they would wander through the streets, they would go down onto the harbor, they would walk along the docks, and the boats coming in, the fishing boats, they would be filleting the fish or whatever, and they would throw them their scraps, and the cats would then be fed, and they would eat the fish off the boats. Also, the household cats, just like their owners, would eat fish from the bay as well. It was a very important staple of the town and the life and all of the families there.
Okay.
Now, like I said, this was taking place for 20 plus years, and everyone in the city was cool with it, as in cool with the cats. However, in 1954, it would all change. In early June of 1954, people down at the harbor began to notice something odd. Some of the cats were drooling, stumbling around, and acting off, or just walking in circles. Around that same time, the household cats started to do the same thing. And I'm not talking just like one or two, I'm talking almost every single cat in that city, the street cats and the household cats. Over the next 2 to 3 weeks, people in the city began to notice that the street cats were stumbling around in the street, not just one or two, all of them were stumbling around as if it was like an earthquake happening. They were all drooling. They were acting erratically. Some people began to say that it looked like the cats were all dancing in the streets. The household cats began to do the exact same thing. Not long after that is when all hell broke loose. People began to notice not only that these cats were acting erratically, but they started to convulse. And then shortly after that, they would begin running down the dock of the harbor, jump into the bay, and drown themselves. And this was multiple cats, multiple, like 20 to 30 cats did this. And people were like, what the hell is wrong with these cats? The household cats around the same time, almost all of them began running in circles in the homes, and then they defecated on themselves and then began to run into the walls of the home. And they kept doing that nonstop until they started convulsing and then they died. And I have a video, okay, that was taken back then. And I want to give kind of like a disclosure, a warning that this 12-second video shows one of the street cats drooling and walking weird, and then it shows one of the household cats running into the walls and stuff, okay? So, viewer discretion is advised. If we get censored on YouTube because of this short clip, I'm just going to remove it, and you can find this clip on our website and watch it there. But we're going to play that clip right now. All right, so as you can see, the cat is drooling, walking around, and then the next shows the cat just kind of like acting weird, and then there's the house cat, boom, running into the walls. It's a short clip, but it shows how erratic the cats were acting.
Yeah, you could definitely tell that they were convulsing. Their body was like tightening up, and its mouth was. It, those like chattering toys.
Yeah,
That's exactly what it looked like. Not making fun of them, but when it was starting to convulse, its mouth was just going.
moving
Yeah.
up and down, yeah.
Huh.
So, over the next few days, all of the cats in the entire city of Minamata were dead. All of them. There wasn't a single cat left alive.
Holy shit.
And it doesn't stop there. Shortly after every single cat passed away, birds in the area began falling out of the sky. Not only that, but some of them began diving into the ocean, drowning themselves, or kamikazing themselves into buildings, into windows, into just random objects, vehicles that were driving. People, they kamikazed themselves into people. Some kids were also playing outside, and these birds were flying into the kids. So, needless to say, everybody thought, man, it's really weird. All of our cats died. Now the birds are going crazy and psycho. And it wasn't the birds attacking the people.
They were just diving down
They
and
were diving down and they were just losing their shit. It's like they just went mad almost.
hmm.
Almost at the same exact time that the birds started doing that, the fish in the bay started to do it as well. They started to act erratically. The fish began jumping out of the water onto the land and dying. They also were swimming in circles and would stop, float up, and be dead. So the fish started acting weird as hell as well. Now, something important to note is that since all of the cats were gone and dead, guess what happened? The rats. The rats moved in and the population of them skyrocketed, and rats were everywhere. On August 1st, 1954, the local newspaper had a headline of Epilepsy Wipes Out Local Cats, Screams of Panic Over Drastic Increase in Rats.
I mean, I guess I could see that, but
Yeah, they thought it was like the cats were having seizures and that's why they died. All of them. It's like, what? Of course, the locals got pissed that there were a ton of rats in the area. So local officials ended up bringing in over 100 more cats to kind of like take care of the rats. But over a few week period, they all ended up passing away the same way as the previous cats did. All of them. And guess what? The rats ended up coming back. So, what did the city officials do? You would think they would investigate as to why the cats were all dying, why the birds were kamikazing themselves, and why the fish were jumping out of the water.
yeah.
Nope. Instead, they hired rat exterminators. Yeah. And they took care of the rat problem. But still, uh, there was no cats or animals in the city.
Hmm.
So, over the next year, from 1954 to 1955, no more cats or animals were brought into the city, and the fish and birds continued to die off in dramatic numbers. Then, on August 21st, 1956, so a year or two later, a young girl in the city was taken to the local hospital. Now, this girl, she was born healthy and lived a normal life with no health problems. However, she started to develop some weird symptoms that evolved into something that her family could not ignore. She started to decline to the point to where she couldn't speak, she couldn't eat, she couldn't walk, and eventually she started convulsing and passed away. The doctors had no clue as to what was wrong with her, but she wouldn't be the last. Now, I want you to close your eyes and imagine this. You live in this city of Minamata. Your cat died a year or two ago, along with every other cat in the city, and no one knew why.
Oh, not my cot.
However, you continued on with your everyday life. You and your family still have dinner together every night, which consists of fish, just like every household there in that city. Then one day, you wake up. Your hands are numb. You try to grab something, but your fingers, they don't work. You try to shake it off and think that it might go away, but it doesn't. Then the next day, you start to notice that you can't balance yourself whenever you stand up. So if you try to walk, you start to stumble. Then, as you talk, you notice that your speech starts to slur. Words don't come out the way that they should. Then, shortly after that, you become deaf. You lose your hearing. And then your vision becomes blurry, and then you become blind. After that, you start convulsing, and then you die.
Damn.
Yeah. That is what started happening to hundreds of people in Minamata, hundreds. And it wasn't just one person in a specific family that would get sick, it would be the entire household, and no one could explain why. And at first, no one knew what it was or what was causing it. Doctors were confused, and of course, families in the area, they were scared. Rumors started to spread, and with those rumors came chaos. Some people thought whatever this was contagious. Others thought that it was something that was in the air or that it was something in the water, but nothing was confirmed. It was all just rumors. They began taking the people that would become sick and quarantining them off from others, but that didn't help because other families started to get sick and die off.
Sounds like some epidemic I know.
Yeah. As doctors began studying what was going on, they noticed that whatever these people had, it wasn't spreading like a normal disease. It wasn't moving from person to person. Like if we lived in a different household way far away from each other and I got sick, my entire family would get sick afterwards. But if you hung out with us just for a couple days, you wouldn't get sick.
Hmm.
It was weird. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't moving person to person. Whatever this was showing up in clusters, mostly in the fishing families that lived near the harbor. The doctors began researching and bringing in scientists and compiling all this data. And then one doctor had an idea. He said, "Hey, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, didn't a bunch of cats die off and birds like attack people or like fly down into people?" And they were like, "Oh, yes, very good."
Yes, the cats.
They started looking into those cats from a couple years ago that passed away mysteriously. And that is when the connection was made. The animals got sick first, the cats, the birds, they were all eating from the same source that the families that got sick were eating from as well, the sea. It was at that point that local officials were notified and additional scientists were brought in. They began studying the fish, the shellfish, and the water itself there in the bay. What they discovered was the answer to all of the health problems that had been going on. And this is where I'm going to pause and say, okay, Dan, let's hear your guess as to what it was.
So, whatever the issue was causing all this was from the sea.
Yes.
So that rules out anything from rats. Causing convulsions, drooling, uncontrollability. I have no clue. I'm not a man of the sea. I don't know much
Okay.
about it. Honestly, I thought it was gonna be something with the rats, considering they
The
brought
bubonic
cats in.
plague,
Not that, but something with the rats that they were carrying something, or
the hantavirus.
because the cats would eat the rats, then they would get sick. Then let's say that the cats jumped in the water, fish would eat that, or say cat died somewhere, birds would eat off of that, the corpse.
Yeah.
But if it's from the sea, I don't know.
Yeah. So, what the scientists discovered is that the bay itself was contaminated with mercury, specifically a toxic form called methyl mercury. And this toxic chemical was not coming from nature, it was coming from a local company, a chemical plant run by a corporation called Shizuzo. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know. I could be wrong. I apologize if I am not saying it correctly. All right. So, this chemical plant had been operating in the town of Minamata since 1908. It was a major part of the city's economy. It provided jobs, income, and stability to the region. But that company didn't really give a shit about the city or the area or the bay itself. Because as a part of the chemical plant's manufacturing process, it released its wastewater straight into the bay. The wastewater contained that mercury, and over time, this mercury built up in the water. Then it built up in the fish, and it slowly moved up the food chain, concentrating, getting more toxic as time went on. And by the time anyone realized what was happening, it was already too late. And I have a fun fact for you. The chemical company had a doctor, and this doctor conducted a secret company experiment in 1959 by feeding the factory wastewater directly to cats. He did this in secret. One of those animals, later known as Cat 400,
400.
400 developed Minamata disease. So they made a connection that, hey, our wastewater is what's making this Minamata disease spread. And that's what they named it. And this doctor and the company decided to tell no
No
one.
one.
However, even though they didn't tell anyone, shortly after that, in July of 1959, the scientists at a local university had been doing their own research and they made an announcement. They said that the local chemical company had been releasing large amounts of mercury into the bay for years. Fish had ingested it, and when humans ate those fish, over time, it created Minamata disease, which is a nervous system disease. Along with this announcement, they urged the chemical company to stop sending out its wastewater into the bay, which makes sense. You figured they would
Yeah.
have done this a long time ago after finding out, like, hey, we're the cause of this. They said, fuck it. They kept pumping that shit right into the bay.
They thought there was enough water out there and the currents and all that were carried away, so it wouldn't be.
Yeah, the solution to pollution is dilution. But that wasn't the case because it was a bay and it built up in concentrations. And you would think that the locals, when they heard about this announcement, they would be like, yeah, this chemical company needs to stop doing this shit. They need to stop sending their wastewater out. They weren't for it. 28 local Minamata businesses, including the Chamber of Commerce, agricultural sector, and the labor unions, petitioned the governor to not allow the chemical plant's operation to be stopped because an immediate halt to wastewater discharge would threaten local livelihoods and the economy.
Mhm.
It's money over people.
Yeah.
Now, the company itself, they were confronted by some of the locals and they denied responsibility at first. They said, it's not, we aren't doing it. It's not our fault. They also questioned the researchers and the scientists, saying that their research was faulty and they don't know what they're talking about. And of course, they didn't stop the contamination. They continued to release the wastewater into the bay. And you want to take a guess at how many more years they continued to release it? This was in 1959, whenever they uh, they had made this announcement.
Probably into the 80s.
Close. People kept getting sick, and the scale of the disaster kept growing. Eventually, in 1968, they stopped releasing the wastewater, almost 10 years later. But it wasn't just in 1954 when they were releasing this wastewater. They started releasing it in 1932. 1932 to 1968, for 36 years, that chemical company released around 70 to 150 tons of mercury into Minamata Bay. It gets even crazier. Around 1.5 million cubic meters of sludge containing at least 25 parts per million of mercury settling over roughly 2 million square meters of seabed.
Damn.
The sludge in some of the inner parts of the bay where the sludge was at, the sludge was over 13 feet thick. 13 feet thick was the
That's
sludge.
that's taller than this room
Yeah.
because this ceiling is 12.
So fishing in the bay was immediately restricted and almost, well, around 10 years later, in 1977 to 1990, they began dredging and cleaning up the bay. Eventually, in 1997, fishing in the bay was allowed again, and part of that land contained large amounts of contaminated sludge. Part of that land was turned into a park for public use, and it was named Eco Park. Now, the last part of my Theories Thursday is a question. It's how many people were affected by this? And I looked into this quite a bit. because there's not a straightforward number. Figuring out that number is a bit tricky because not everyone who was affected was officially counted. But here's what I do know from confirmed records: over 3,000 people have been officially recognized as Minamata disease patients across Japan. Out of those, well over 1,000 people died from the disease. There are also tens of thousands of people who were affected, but not officially classified as full Minamata disease patients, so they don't count. They got to hit this very strict criteria.
Sounds like an epidemic I know.
Yeah. Around 38,000 plus people received some form of medical aid or compensation, meaning they showed symptoms or were exposed, but they didn't meet the strict criteria for official recognition. So they didn't count towards the official numbers. Also, thousands of children were born with deformities afterwards, and these deformities are horrible, and they are being contributed unofficially to the Minamata disease. Now, the true number of people affected is believed to be way higher than the official count because many people were never tested, never reported their symptoms, or were just completely ignored when they reported them, or they died and they were marked off as they died to something else.
And I'm assuming that since this was a coastal town, they did a lot of fishing. A lot of fish were probably exported to other like places in Japan and probably
It
out of the country.
affected not only Minamata, but all of the lower island area because Minamata sits on that lower island of Japan, and it
Yeah.
affected all of that island. So there you go. That's my Theories Thursday topic, the Minamata disease disaster. So have you ever heard of that before?
I've never heard of the Minamata disease or uh I want to say I know about like mercury in the water because um back in shoot, I don't know. I think it's still kind of crappy, but in Virginia, the James River, there is a plant that releases wastewater into the James River in Hopewell, Virginia. And I believe, and I was always told, never eat the fish from the James River in that area. It had high mercury. And I believe it's probably the same thing. I can't, I, I want to say, I don't know if it's methyl mercury, but I just know that they said don't eat the fish from it, or if you do, don't eat too much of it because it has too much mercury and that you'll get sick from it.
You know what? I wonder if shortly after this Minamata disease outbreak occurred and they learned it was from that mercury, I wonder if like big beef and big chicken came together and was like, hey, push this narrative that all the fish contains mercury and not to eat a lot of it so that people would buy more beef and chicken.
Hmm.
That'd be a,
That would be a, yeah.
hold on, let's see. Let's see if there's any truth to that.
So there is in Virginia, there are fish consumption advisories. So they say it's not so much in the water anymore. It's more so just in certain fish species. And it's like Virginia Beach City, Norfolk, Gloucester, Hampton City, stuff like that. Like it well, I mean it goes there's tons of places. I think it's honestly along like the rivers and stuff because there's multiple rivers, Potomac, James River and all that. But mercury is one of the contaminants. Doesn't say methyl mercury, but it says mercury. It's like you're supposed to eat less than like for the fish, you're supposed to eat less than 2 meals of it a month. So obviously it's enough to can cause issues.
Yeah, I was reading about this that after Minamata, scientists worldwide began studying mercury levels in oceans, lakes, and in fish populations all around the world. They learned that coal burning, mining, industrial pollution, and natural mercury cycling all contributed mercury to waterways. The fish that contained the most mercury were sharks, swordfish, king mackerel, and some tunas. That being said, corporations in all food sectors, beef, poultry, seafood, dairy, sugar, have a history of lobbying, advertising influence, and shaping nutrition narratives. There have been accusations that U.S. meat industries promoted fear around seafood contaminants. Government agencies gave overly cautious or inconsistent advice about seafood. Media amplified fear in ways that hurt fishing economies. Wow. So big beef created the mercury fear after the Minamata disease.
Yeah, here it is. It was always I know it was always blue catfish and flathead catfish in Virginia in the James River. And it was like they said, don't eat any catfish that was greater or equal to 32 inches long. Because the
They
bigger they are, the
accumulate.
more mercury in them.
Damn. Well, if you or a loved one have gotten mercury poisoning from eating fish, send us a email. We would love to hear from you.
If you can remember it.
Well,
I
well,
mean, it sounds terrible to be honest. Like
yeah.
I wouldn't want to try to remember that shit.
But
Damn.
with that being said, that right there is my Theories Thursday topic. I hope you enjoyed it.
And there you have it. That's the end of the episode. Oh, I gotta do mine.
Yeah. All right, Dan. So, what is your Theories Thursday topic this week?
Oh, it's related to the OKC bombing, Oklahoma City bombing.
Okay.
It is about Timothy McVeigh and Paul was Sopel. Now, there is a conspiracy out there that Timothy McVeigh did not die, that
He wasn't.
he wasn't killed by lethal injection,
Okay.
that he is now an FBI agent named Paul Wasopel. And I mean, the claim is pretty straightforward, but I guess I'll go into like giving some information since I don't know if everyone knows who Timothy McVeigh is. So I'll cover Timothy McVeigh first, and then afterwards I'll cover Paul Wasopel to give you like like kind of like a summary of each person, and then go into the kind of like conspiracy of them being the same person. Which I mean, there is resemblances to it. So
Okay.
all right, so Timothy McVeigh was known in history as the man convicted for carrying out the Oklahoma City bombing on April 19th, 1995. The bombing destroyed part of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City and killed 168 people, including 19 children. The FBI described the attack as the deadliest act of homegrown terrorism in the United States history. McVeigh, though, he was born in 1968 in Lockport, New York, and grew up in a working class environment shaped by divorce, isolation, and with that, he grew up in an area where he was able to have a fascination for guns and survivalism. Guess he learned that from his dad.
Which that's not always bad. I like guns. I like survivalism. I like
Yeah.
hiking.
I think he had a very, very big fascination with it, with other ideas.
Hmm.
Because after McVeigh got out of high school, he went directly into the military and he was involved in the Gulf War. He became a Gulf War veteran. But after leaving the military, he became increasingly consumed by anti-government anger. His anti-government his anti-government ideology grew even more from reading books like the Turner Diaries, which the book portrays a violent uprising against the federal government and became almost a blueprint for most extremist ideology. Which, from what I hear, it's pretty much almost the same as what he did. As like in the book, they bombed a federal building, and there's another book called Something Jihad, where yeah, the character or the protagonist or whoever it is in the book, his name was Tom McVeigh, which was
Oh,
very interesting.
okay.
But there's books like that. Now, his rage centered heavily around events like Ruby Ridge in 1992 and the Waco Siege in 1993, both of which became symbolic fuel for anti federal extremist circles. Now, McVeigh, after the bombing and on April 15th, 1995, McVeigh was arrested the same day as the attack after the Oklahoma Highway Patrol trooper Charlie Hanger stopped him for driving without a license plate. That traffic stop became one of the strangest turns in American criminal history because McVeigh was already sitting in custody before investigators fully understood who they had in custody. So they didn't even know, like, they they had him in custody for driving a vehicle without license plates. Then they're just like, "Oh shit, this is the guy that did the bombing."
Yeah, so didn't he drive like a fertilizer truck or like a
Van or something like that.
it was a it was like a moving vehicle with what the fuck did he drive again? I gotta look at that document whenever we covered it.
I couldn't
All
find the document.
these you couldn't find it?
Nope, it's gone. What
Mm.
did McVeigh drive?
Damn, the document is gone. Imagine that.
Yeah, it's. I tried to find it and couldn't. But yeah, I just whatever vehicle he was driving, I thought it was like a van or something, but they didn't have any license plates, so he ended up getting, I guess, detained and everything. But then they found out who they really had. So of course, the investigation happened. Then they all, he was tried, convicted, and then sentenced to death and executed by lethal injection on June 11th, 2001, at the federal prison in Indiana.
Yeah, he drove a Ford F700 Ryder box truck,
Ah,
loaded it with a large ammonium nitrate fuel oil, and parked it in front of the Alfred P. Murrah
oh, you're
Federal
talking.
Building.
Oh, the actual vehicle he used to
Detonate.
do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he rented it 2 days prior to the attack in, Kansas.
yeah. He had like what 5 metal barrels, 5 plastic barrels, and he had like wooden brackets in there to hold them in place, stuff like that. Now, his execution was especially significant because it was the first federal execution in the United States since 1963. But after the execution, his body was transported to a funeral home and his body was cremated on his own request, and he wanted his ashes to be given to his lawyer, Stephen Jones, who then scattered the remains in a private undisclosed location. So that is who Timothy McVeigh is.
Sorry, I'm just gonna keep that thought to myself. I was gonna say, what if he scattered them at the Oklahoma City bombing the
Oh
building?
god, that would be fucked up.
That would be fucked up. I don't know why I thought of that.
I mean, the location's never been disclosed, so it could be possible.
Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, that's only if his lawyer is pretty fucked up too, which I don't know much about his lawyer. But yeah, so McVeigh, most people in, with the right mindset saw him as a villain, but there are some out there that see him as a hero against the government. Even though he killed a lot of innocent people, he fought against the government, so people would say that he was a hero, which I don't think so. Now, that should be the end of the McVeigh saga, but it's not because, like I said earlier, there is a man named Paul Wasopal. But yeah, so who the hell was Paul Wasopal? The thing that seems weird to people is that Paul's early life, is like nowhere to be mentioned. And he's an FBI agent, so you figure there'd be at least a little bit of information out there.
Okay.
So McVeigh's life was mapped out in detail, but Paul's early life is like a blank page. And that's where the internet starts to try to connect these two people. So what we do know about Wasopal is pretty much where federal records begin. And that's actually his personal, or not personal, but his professional life. He served as a military lawyer in the U.S. Army's Judge Advocate General Corps for about 3 years. So that means he was already an attorney when he entered that role. Then, after serving in the Army, he spent 3 years as a civilian attorney, and then he joined the FBI in February of 1997. So that's the first actual date we hear is 1997. He joins the FBI.
Mm.
So 3 years prior to that, he was in the military as an attorney. And then you figure he has to go to college and law school, then join the military. So that's going to be something you got to remember because like if you reverse engineer that timeline, you get a pretty clear window, I think. He would have been in the Army as a JAG officer roughly in the early to mid 1990s, likely around 1991 to 1994, give or take a year or so, depending on transitions between roles. And to serve in the JAG Corps, you need to have already completed law school and passed the bar. That would mean Wasopal's path would have looked like college, law school, bar exam, then entry into the Army as a legal officer. But in 1997, that is when he actually joined the FBI as a special agent, starting at the Minneapolis division. He focused on financial crimes, bank fraud, securities fraud, the kind of cases that don't make headlines but require patience, precision, and an eye for detail. Then from there, he moves on from the financial crimes and transitions into congressional affairs, stepping into a role that connects the FBI with lawmakers. After that, he changes departments again. This time he moves to counterterrorism, somewhere in the mid 2000s, like 2004 to 2008. And most of these are just not 100% accurate timelines because it's hard to really nail like his like career perfectly.
Okay.
It's kind of like a mystery on this guy, even though he's an FBI agent and he's out there, but the times are just so hard to find. But when he joined the counterterrorism division, this actually lines up with the post 9/11 transformation of the FBI, where national security becomes the dominant focus. And then by the late 2000s, 2008 to 2010 era, he takes on roles in major field offices, which includes Los Angeles. And then after taking on bigger, more complex layered cases, he would then move to El Paso from 2010 to 2013 time, which he got a big promotion in 2013 and became the special agent in charge of the FBI's Tampa division in Florida. And he would stay in that position for 4 years. And that's where he like most of the details you could find on him is when he worked in Florida. Because in June of 2016, the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando happens, which that was a very big fucking shooting.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, his life was pretty quiet, and then he like pretty much moved into a senior position in the FBI. So that's mostly what we could actually find on, or what I could find on Paul Wasopal. And going into that, there are some contradicting things at times where they couldn't. Timothy and Paul could not be the same people. But I started thinking about like could just be a set, like his past could be just created that way. And honestly, that's what most of this internet says is that it's his past and stuff is kind of like fake because there's too much of a physical resemblance. And I have to say, it's really like it's a big thing. So this is the actual main evidence that make people believe that Timothy McVeigh didn't actually die that day by lethal injection, that his death was faked by the FBI, and he was given a position and new identity to work for the FBI. And
Why
to
would he
show
go
that,
to work with the thing he hated?
supposedly he was always like he had like an FBI handler or stuff like that. They FBI wanted this building destroyed,
Taken down.
so it made it look like we needed more security, stuff like that.
So they created this homegrown terrorist to be able to push more laws into effect to where they could surveil
And pretty much him getting
citizens.
yeah, and him doing this, the FBI rewarded him with a position with the FBI and all that,
Hmm.
a new identity and everything. Now, I have a video that I'm going to play, and I will have it up here, and we're going to watch it here. This will show the comparison between Timothy McVeigh on the left and Paul Wasopal on the right. So this is obviously Timothy McVeigh when he was, you know, going to trial, and this is Paul Wasopal like 2016 ish.
Okay.
And here we go.
So they have the photos in Photoshop side by side,
Yep, he turned the photo so their heads are both upright. He takes the ear of Timothy McVeigh, places it on Paul Wasopal's.
and it fits perfectly.
Then he takes the eyes and nose, and he has to kind of like shrink it down just a little bit, but it's almost like a perfect match. And he just shows like the transparency between it that there's not much of a difference when you look at it.
Holy shit.
And only difference you would see is like when someone ages that some features change just very little.
Yeah, everything gets pulled down due to gravity.
Yeah, so it's the resemblance, and people would say like the ear don't lie. It's like a fingerprint. Now the next one is another photo of Timothy McVeigh on the left and Paul Wasopal on the right, and they do the same thing. And they do the transparency of fading in and out, and the ear, nose, and eyes are almost identical. It's pretty crazy. And honestly, the teeth are different, but the front two teeth, I think, are almost the same as well. So I think he got veneers when he got older, if this was Timothy McVeigh. So it's pretty crazy to see the side by side comparison of it. That it almost looks like that Paul Wasopal could definitely be Timothy McVeigh
Wow.
as being older. Now, other than the resemblance of side by side comparing their faces, what proof is there that this could be that Paul Wasopal could be Timothy McVeigh? So I had to do some digging to try to see if there's anything other than that to prove it. And I did find some interesting stuff. The very first thing is about Timothy McVeigh's execution. His body had to be transported to a funeral home to be cremated. Usually, a hearse or a vehicle made to transport bodies would be used to do that, which in this case, it was a hearse, but it wasn't just one hearse. The authorities used a decoy hearse as well, because you're watching one, but his body's being moved by another one that was hidden and waited for the right time to leave. And I'm like, why would they have to do that? It goes back to some people, some groups thinking that Timothy McVeigh was a hero.
Mm.
So even though authorities said this wasn't anything suspicious, it was just a precaution because sometimes this is done to prevent ambushes, interference, or unwanted attention. So a decoy was used because they were afraid the hearse would be stopped and someone would take the remains of Timothy as a trophy or destroy it. And there were reports that the FBI and officials connected to the case received inquiries and offers related to McVeigh's remains, including attempts to purchase or obtain body parts of his body or parts of his body.
A bunch of freaks. Ed Gein out there trying to get Timothy McVeigh's penis.
And this wasn't something that was just like a rumored. This at the time, this was actually talked about like by media outlets covering this, and FBI did say that, like I said, they did have a decoy hearse to do this.
And people were trying to purchase his penis.
Yeah. Was it Rasputin's?
You know, Rasputin's, that's not his penis.
It's not.
No,
So I need to
that's
return
all.
it.
You're the one that has it in the jar. You get it out and play with it. Woo, 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 woo.
Don't come near me.
Nunchucks.
But yeah, they and so pretty much people trying to purchase the body or just body parts. So this is why they said they had to handle the remains the way they did. They wanted to keep the process controlled, quick, and avoid anything public that could turn his body into a spectacle or a collectible. And that was the last thing the FBI wanted, was for McVeigh to become some kind of martyr figure or pieces of his remains to end up circulating in extremist circles. So, but with that, there are speculations that the bodies were actually switched, that there was a body double. So McVeigh wasn't actually in the one hearse that went to the funeral home. He actually went somewhere else because he actually wasn't dead. And there was no verifiable proof of this, but supposedly they said that after the execution, they had people medically check him to make sure that he's dead. People say that they saw him, his eyes close, heartbeat slows down, pretty much stop breathing, he's dead. Then there was rumors that there was one nurse who said that he wasn't fully dead yet. His eyes had closed, but they never fully checked to see if his heart had stopped. They said that his breath looked shallow. Then they hauled him out of the room. So that just adds to the fact that his body might have been switched when they did the whole decoy hearse, and that his true body, him, went somewhere else. So there's that. And then I'm just like, all right, people say that McVeigh, he did this for the FBI, and that after he did it, they're just like, oh, good job. It did exactly what we wanted. Now you got a job with the FBI, and you're now known as Paul Wasopal. So I'm like, what connection to the FBI did McVeigh, what would he would have? I mean, considering he was in the army, so what else could there be? Well, who was Timothy McVeigh's accomplice? Terry Nichols.
That's what his name was. I was trying to remember his name. I used to work with a Bill Nichols. Guy had a butterfly tattoo on his hand. Little fruity.
Did he go like this and make it flap? Sorry. I would. I'm just if I had it. But I'm a little bit
I
of
never
butterfly.
thought about that one. I should have been. Ooh, fly away.
So Terry Nichols believed that Timothy was already in cahoots with the FBI before the bombing. And in Terry's own words, and I quote from his declaration, there, in what I believe was an accidental slip of the tongue, McVeigh revealed the identity of a high-ranking FBI official who was apparently directing McVeigh in the bomb plot. The name McVeigh let slip was Larry Potts.
Who fucks Larry Potts?
He was the lead FBI agent at Ruby Ridge.
Oh, fuck.
Then McVeigh said he believed Potts was manipulating him and forcing him to go off script, which I understood meant to change the target of the bombing. That was the only time that I ever heard McVeigh refer to Larry Potts in that context. Now, when he said that go off script, Terry Nichols actually left the country like that prior year before the bombing, because he thought that Timothy was going to bomb somewhere like in like the late of the year, like November or December or something. So he left the country. But when he came back, he never heard of any bombing. So he's just like, oh shit, Timothy never did it. And somehow Timothy knew when Terry came back into the country, and he immediately contacted Terry. So
Put it in reverse.
So that was in Terry's declaration that the whole AKC bombing was an FBI operation, and that Potts was McVeigh's FBI handler. Now, Potts was no stranger to anti-government confrontations, having been the lead FBI agent at the Ruby Ridge in 1992, where they ended up shooting
Randy Weaver's
son
wife.
and wife, because Vicky Weaver died, and then Samuel died.
Yep.
Because of the dog, right?
Yep.
So not only that, but earlier I said that there was two things that really pushed Timothy: Ruby Ridge and the Waco siege.
Mm-hmm.
Now, guess who was at the Waco siege as well?
Larry Potts.
Larry Potts. Potts was reportedly involved in the 51-day siege of the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas, 1993, which resulted in a fire that killed 81 Branch Davidian and followers. And guess who else was there at the Waco siege?
Alex Jones.
Oh yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
Timothy McVeigh.
Yep, he was there.
He was there selling fucking bumper stickers and anti-government and pro-gun material.
Mm-hmm. That's something an undercover FBI agent would do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he was...
They would also create a podcast and talk about stuff like this.
So yeah. So that right there shows that there was at least one place that Timothy McVeigh and Larry Potts were at. That was Waco siege. And if you have someone there selling pro-gun and anti-government material against the government, and you're the lead FBI agent there, you're probably going to get pissed off that you're hearing this guy yelling like, yeah, buy this, yeah, fuck the government. So obviously there could be a connection there. So that's all I could really find with FBI connections, though. And I mean, honestly, I think that's a big thing, is that Timothy McVeigh, if what Terry says is true, which I don't know if you ever read the Terry Nichols declaration. Dude, it changes everything if it's true. Like, Terry said that the way they designed the, well, technically, Timothy supposedly never actually created a bomb, from what he said. But he wanted to learn more about it. But the way they designed the bombs for the truck, he said it was completely different than what Timothy actually used. So he's just like, you don't know who created that one or did that shit the way they did it.
Osama bin Laden.
But Timothy, he set up an arms dealer to steal a bunch of the stuff. What's his name? I remember his last name is Moore. Wife's was Karen Moore. Because there was an article that an arms dealer got robbed of like guns and materials and stuff like that. And that was Timothy setting it up for Terry Nichols to rob this arms dealer while he was away. And Timothy was on a traveling around, going to gun shows and stuff, selling pro gun material and stuff like that. So that gave Timothy an alibi that he wasn't the one doing it, and the arms dealer didn't even know who Terry Nichols was, so there was no connection there. Like that declaration, like you have to read it, and it's mind blowing to think that if it's all connected that way. But just to say, when it comes down to it, the timing of McVeigh planning the OKC bombing and Paul with Sopel, honestly, to me, doesn't really add up. But people say that Paul with Sopel's past was kind of just created just to fit his new lifestyle. But yet, nothing about his early life at all can be found before he actually, I guess, got out of the military. Because you don't even know when he, I don't even know if you could, like, I think you probably find out where they say that he went to law school, but I don't think it's like 100% verified. If it is, let me know. I honestly couldn't find it. And if I did, I probably was too tired because I stayed up to like 3 a.m. looking this stuff up. But the real big evidence would be the whole physical side by side. Because, I mean, the ear fits perfectly, the eyes and nose, just droop it down a little bit. It fits.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the front two teeth look exactly the same.
What's his name? I want to look up other photos of him.
Paul Wysopal, Wysopal. And there's tons of videos, or not videos. There's like one video out there that made it like viral, and then everyone has jumped onto it. And I don't know, if you only went by
God damn, how tall is this motherfucker?
Paul and Timothy are the same height, but I mean, you got him beside an Asian guy. That's
Oh.
not fair. Not fair. But yeah, it's there. The resemblance physically is just there, but like it's hard to go by that because you got Jeffrey Epstein and then you got like Palm Beach Pete.
They look
They look, I mean, it's pretty close too,
identical.
but I just don't think that's the case. I mean, it sucks for Palm Beach Pete. I don't know. It's just mostly just the resemblance is what connects it. And honestly, that's the end of my Theories Thursday. The question is like, do you?
I'm going to ask you, do you believe? I don't think you do.
I don't believe it's him. If just going by the information, which I mean, it could be misinformation put out there by the government itself to make Paul Wysopal change the timeline so it doesn't fit. I do believe that everyone out there has like a doppelganger. There's just billions of people out there. You're gonna have someone that's gonna kind of look like you.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the ears and stuff like that aren't
They
gonna be
match
as
up
perfectly
perfectly.
like that, but I've received photos from my family of when they like spot somebody that looks just like me, and I start laughing and then crying because it does look like me.
Didn't one time, like years ago, I want to say like 2009, 10, 11 timeframe, I vaguely remember you sending me a photo of a girl that said, "Holy shit, this is the woman version of you."
Yeah, dude, she looked just like you without a beard.
I vaguely remember that because I was thinking, damn, that does look like me.
it it was like some of the facial features were almost identical. I mean, there were some things that were off, but it was close.
Hmm.
Because like when I first saw it, I was just like, "Is that Aaron?" Like, no, like
Oh my God.
can't be worse than anything than today.
Today? What do you mean today?
The guy at
Oh
HEB.
my fucking God. We'll talk about that during Strange Facts.
No,
Not
voicemails.
Strange Fact. Yeah, we'll talk about that during our premium episode. That shit was fucking. And then what happened to me on my way to the soccer game, and then what happened to you on the way to the
Today
soccer
was a weird
game.
fucking day.
Today was a weird day.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's Timothy McVeigh?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to deny it, but I try to go by the facts, and even though I'm 75% sure it's not him, 25% that it honestly could be him.
Yeah. I think it's him. Look at Ghislaine Maxwell. She's out and roaming free, but
They have a
technically
fucking dude in there.
they're still like, yeah, technically she's still in prison, but she's not in prison. Jeffrey Epstein didn't die. He's out roaming around. Is he Palm Beach Pete? No, but he did have a twin brother. Did you know that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein had a twin brother. Not many people know that. Um, but yeah, I think the FBI and government agencies, the CIA and all that, they create these narratives, they create these events to push certain things. The Oklahoma City bombing, Ruby Ridge, the Branch Davidians, all of that was to push this homegrown terrorism narrative so that more surveillance can be added, that the government could surveil more individuals, that they could get phone records, they could tap into things. And then it was all pushed through after 9/11. You know, the NSA was able to get everything. And now everything's monitored. You look at flock cameras now. Flock cameras are a big thing. They monitor everything and they sell all your data.
Yeah, and not just that, like with the Oklahoma City bombing, if Timothy McVeigh was targeting them, and I mean, I don't know if he would know this information, but that day, I remember in the document when we covered it, all the ATF agents that worked in that building
We're
were
not there.
not at work that day,
Yep.
which is very odd. If, targeting a federal building and then all of a sudden they're not there, but then a bomb goes off.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. And then there's supposedly, I need to look this up more. I figured probably sooner or later we're going to recover the Oklahoma City bombing, I think,
Hmm.
because with Terry Nichols' declaration and stuff out there, I think it's worth doing. But they even said that the explosion with the way the bombs or the bomb set up in the truck, and then the way this building exploded, they believe it kind of like the 9/11 thing. This stuff came from inside the building because there Terry said that they stole like 8.5 to 9 tons or something, uh, like tons of like explosive stuff. Only like 1.5 tons of it was used for the Oklahoma City bombing. So there's like 7.5 tons of it missing.
Jesus.
So they're just like, where is it?
Well, it blew up in West in 2014 in the fertilizer explosion.
It could be that too. But somehow the one guy watched the video and he's connected it to 9/11.
Yeah.
And I'm just
That,
like, I mean,
yeah, that could be a
could be a
possibility.
big enough explosion. But
Mm.
yeah, it's definitely Oklahoma City bombing is something we got to recover with the declaration from Terry and all this other information that came out that it honestly changes a lot of stuff. It almost makes it look like it was an inside job
Hmm.
because Ruby Ridge was a failure. Waco Siege was a failure. They're like, oh, we got to get the people back on our side. Oh, God, this anti government guy blew up a federal building, killed
Bunch of
100 people,
babies,
killed
but
children.
children, bunch of children they pushed,
Yeah. So they're like, we were doing a good job and look what happens. They come after
and
us.
then they get the sympathy. Yep, that's exactly what they did, the government.
So let us know if you believe that Paul Wasopal is Timothy McVeigh. Because, I mean, it's hard to deny it. I'm trying my best to deny it because I want to try to have a different view on this by the facts. But, I mean, Timothy McVeigh dies in 1995, and then Paul Wasopal comes out and his professional career starts in like what, early 2000s? So he
Mhm.
had like a couple years to hide away and then comes back. Or 1997, dies in 1995, has 2 years off, comes back.
Reviving his career.
If anybody had anybody in the military that was like worked along or served with Paul Wasopal, let us know. Because I
Yeah.
mean,
If Paul was Sopel, if you're out there, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you.
yeah, you're FBI director. I don't know, or you're like a senior management, I think, somewhere.
We'll just contact our handler and get him to contact yours.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all watching our phones.
Yeah. I like to stare at my phone whenever
Yeah,
whenever I'm beating it. I'm like,
Ugh.
"You like that FBI agent what's watching me mysteriously?" No, I'm just kidding.
I make sure I have the camera on.
All right. Well, you have anything else you want to add to your theories Thursday, Dan?
No, I honestly Arnold was the one that suggested this, and I've never honestly heard of Paul Wasopal until he showed me this.
I've never heard of him either
Yeah,
until
so
today.
he showed me that, and I just like he's just like, "I just randomly saw it on TikTok." And I was like, "You know what? Yeah, screw it. Might as well." The Timothy McVeigh, big topic right there, and him surviving. I mean, honestly, this could be something that happens.
Yeah. Well, if you or a loved one have been involved in terroristic crimes,
Please turn yourself in.
please turn yourself in. Do not contact us. But if you or a loved one have been diagnosed with Minamata disease, please send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. But with that being said, that is the end of our episode today. We hope you enjoyed it. And if for some reason you cannot get enough of it, we are doing a voicemail episode this week for premium where we go over all of the, well, not all, but multiple voicemails that we've received. And if you want to leave one for a future voicemail episode, you can give us a call at 707-390-0655, and it will automatically go to a voicemail recording, and you can leave up to 3 minutes, and we will play it.
Call the hotline.
Third kind hotline.
Third kind hotline.
But with that being said, I want to thank you for joining us today. And again, thank you for all your support and love. Without you, we could not do this. We love you and we are proud of you.
That's right. Thank you for your support. Much love.
So, with that being said, Dan, you want to roll us out?
Sure will. It's okay to be out of this world with your thoughts.
Because you are not alone.